last time. Hola community, welcome to BlenderToday 2012? 212. It's the last episode of the year. What else can we expect? Welcome to the last episode of BlenderToday, this 2022. We are going to see what's new in Blender. Actually, there's actually, I wasn't expecting many changes. I almost don't do this live stream, but saying goodbye and actually going through the commits, actually there's more than I expected. There is performance improvement. Blender this week is much faster than it was last week. It's insane. For geometry nodes, there is user interface changes, cycles changes, some no, I think mainly it's in performance actually, yeah, and some announcements for the community all over the world. Such as, okay, let's start with something that is nearby, and you've probably seen it already if you're part of this channel. If you're subscribed to this channel, you may have seen the recap video of the Blender conference. This is the last recap video. There has been, for each day, at the end of the day, there was a video about it, and this is the last one. We no more. There are some interviews part of it, and there is even a lot of smiling people, but there is also a blog post to accompany this, even with some feedback from the community, while pointing also to the pictures, but also some feedback that was taken from the community, from the people that went to the conference. Most people seem to be extremely satisfied, or at least satisfied with the food, with the place, with the venue, and we also got some really good feedback to improve for next year. Actually, one of the improvements we want to do is that this year there were a total of 2 toilets for 700 people, mainly male. So there was a long lines, and that we will try to tackle for next year. You can't just magically make a new toilet in a 17th century building, but maybe some of the others can be repurposed, or like do gender neutral toilets. There are a few options. So yeah, any feedback that you've given, we've been reading about it, and we actually made a list of things to improve for next year. So probably it's going to be at the same venue too. I shouldn't confirm because there's no confirmation yet, but probably be because everybody seems to be pretty happy about it, and it's central. And anyway, that's not all. Blender conference is in the past. You know what's in the future? SIGGRAPH. Yeah, but there's been a SIGGRAPH already in Vancouver. Hold on to that thought. There is another SIGGRAPH at the end of the year, like in December, in 2 or 3 weeks. December 6th, on Tuesday, in South Korea. It's gonna be the first time that people from Blender, in this case gonna be Sebastian and Bastian, 2 developers, are going to be at SIGGRAPH Asia, and there will be a birth of a feather kind of meeting, like a community meeting, but it's also to connect with people there. We haven't never done this before, as far as I know. We did it for Vancouver this year, and it was awesome. There was people from the industry, from not in the industry, from companies, from, yeah, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It really gave you a feeling how big this can be. So if you're in China or India or Australia, well, anywhere close to that area, and well, close and seen, it's closer than the US for sure. So drop by. I don't know about tickets because we don't have an exhibition floor booth this time, so I don't know if we have tickets to give away. Stay tuned. But maybe not. But anyway, other than that, the last thing I want to mention is an announcement. It's a video that appeared in our sister channel, the Blender Developers channel, which mainly hosts things like well, developer related stuff, but also things that are still under development and not yet in master, not yet in a stable release. We try to keep the Blender YouTube channel, this channel, more to, you know, things that are already like out of experimental. Story Pencil is an add-on that comes built in Blender. It was made as an add-on first to test the tools and the workflow, but ideally this will be part of Blender, of core Blender. The idea of Blender is to have the entire creation suite, right? From storyboarding to final rendering. So yes, it is an add-on for now, but it's made by the team working on Grease Pencil. It's not like another team. It's the same people, same people. So you can expect this to be part of Blender built in. For now, you gotta enable the add-on, but other than that, there is this tutorial. It's only 7 minutes and it covers pretty much everything you need to know for creating storyboards in Blender 3.4. Okay, that is all with what's new in the community and in the videos and announcements. Remember, this is live, so if you have any questions that you want me to answer, I will try to answer as many as possible. Go to Blender.Today. There is a thread there created by Barf Garbage. There's already 5 comments there, so leave your question and I will try to answer them towards the end of the show, once I'm finished with what's new in Blender, starting with geometry nodes. What is new in geometry nodes? There is one new node, one new output in a node, some new functionality, some fixes, a lot of performance improvements. So let's start with the new stuff, with the new node. This new node sounds familiar. It follows the same concept as the object info and the collection info, whatever info. This is the image info node. And this is the first time we get this kind of, I'm gonna get my glasses on so I don't have to force my sight. Yeah, the node is called image info node, and it's the same concept as the object info or collection info, but it's the first time that is connected directly to a data block, as in this kind of data block, like a media data block. It looks pretty cool, actually. It gives you information such as, there's no image, but worry not, I have Blender compile here. So let's look at it together. Let's, it's gonna be image info. It's probably in the input. Yeah, under input. All right, it gives you width, height. So width is an integer, height is an integer. If it has or it doesn't have alpha channel, and that is a Boolean. There is also a frame count for frame sequences, I assume, for image sequences, and FPS, frames per second. If a single image, then 0. Interesting. FPS is all uppercase. I wonder if that should change, because in other places we use lowercase. FPS uppercase is FPS uppercase. There is, I mean, I don't think people are gonna mix it with first-person shooter, right? Coming from here, but maybe we should be consistent and either change it all to lower FPS. I think in render it's lowercase too, FPS. Okay, something to think about, to unify it. What is it, lowercase or uppercase? Let me know in the comments. So that is with the new node. There is also a new output in a node we already know. It's called the named attribute. Input node now has a new, also no picture. So we have Blender. It's a input node for named attribute. There's a new output, a Boolean, that tells you whether it exists or doesn't exist, if the attribute exists or not. So you can do some crazy logic in there, and I'm gonna tell you if it exists or not. And one of my favorite changes this week, I have do I have other favorite changes? I do. This one, it's such a small thing, but I love it when developers such as Jan Dorsam, also known as yet another nice name, and a nice person, because look at the fix that they did here. Nodes. Allow pasting common nodes between editor types. Have you ever tried to paste a mix node between, or like a RGB color node that exists in Compositor, in the shading, and in geometry nodes maybe? Like color. No, there input. There must be. There's no input color. But anyway, oh yeah, there is here. So some nodes now exist in multiple editors, node editors. Blender, if you were copying from geometry nodes to shading, for example, or compositing nodes, it would just fail because they come from a different node tree. Well, this great person has made it so Blender could detect if the nodes exist in this type of node tree. So shading and compositing, if they have a similar node, it would paste it. It would allow you to copy paste between them. Isn't that great? So nice. Thank you, Jan. You're awesome. What else? Speaking of geometry nodes, but more in the performance side of things, we got a bunch of changes. It would really make your Blender work faster than last time. For example, this change by Juanes, it's awesome. If you use the split edges node, split like the operator, but in the node shape, things are now much faster. How much faster? Well, the node goes around twice as fast, and around 15% of the time is spent just on the creation of the topology maps. So this being cache on the mesh could cause even a greater speed up if cache. But look at the numbers. A UV sphere, or a 370 by 370 UV sphere, so a very, very heavy sphere. It went from taking 200 milliseconds to calculate to 89 milliseconds. Again, as Suzanne subdivided 4 times, went through from 208 to 76 milliseconds. That's 2 or 3 times as much, almost, much faster. That's awesome. And the fact that it's multi-threading, again, it scales with your system. So super nice. Thank you, Juanes. And look at the time that you've been submitting this on a Sunday. What were you doing on a Sunday at 10:40 p.m.? Well, Juanes was making Blender faster. Everybody should be a bit more like Juanes. Although, only do it if you really feel like it. You shouldn't be working on a Sunday, but hey, thank you for that. What else? Geometry. Cache bounds min and max share between data blocks. What does it mean? These performance improvements, and it's not only geometry nodes, actually it's geometry in general. And it's by Hans, who's also been working a lot on performance lately, which is amazing. It's one of those things that, you know, there's no right-click select thread about it, but everybody's welcoming this kind of improvements. The change goes as follows. So bounding box calculation can be large in some situations, especially when instancing. What is a bounding box? Bounding box is how do you translate it? It's like a box around your selection, your objects. And that box can be used for all kinds of stuff, for selection sometimes, for calculating runtime data of meshes, point clouds, curves, and implementing part of object data bounds. Even, I don't know if this is right, but sometimes for physics it's also used to calculate the bounding box. So if you have like a default cube and you want to calculate a physics box around it, you wouldn't calculate the contact with every vertex. You would just give it a bounding box. For some things, it can update, it can make things so much faster. So the fact that this is much faster now affects all areas in Blender. The caching of the bounds, the bounding box, gave between 2 or 3 times speed up with thousands of meshes geometry instances in the viewport. Sharing the bounds can eliminate recalculation, especially in cases like copying meshes in geometry nodes or the selection paintbrush in curves sculpt mode. So when you're in curve sculpt mode and you use the brush to select those strokes, apparently it is also using bounding boxes. And it has to recalculate, it used to recalculate it all the time. But sometimes the geometry doesn't change, the topology doesn't change. So there's no need to recalculate that all the time. It's amazing. When you look at the details, you know, for a user, it's just like, I want to select this, and that's it. Let me select it. Why is it slow? Well, math, numbers, stuff. So we are so lucky to have such smart people looking into this and contributing to open source to make it better for everybody. Next change, also by hands, is a performance improvement on triangulation of your meshes in mesh. So in this case, for example, if you are transforming a large mesh, but only a little bit, sometimes the whole mesh doesn't change, but it was still being recalculated, for example, in this case, a triangulation. If the position of the topology doesn't change, there's no need to recalculate that. So by implementing a cache function, a shared cache, the improvement on a test using a 1 million points grid was around 13%. It went from 9.75 frames per second to 11 frames per second. So avoids spending 6 milliseconds recalculating the triangulation all the time. So yeah, it's not so, someone might say, but that's only 2 FPS, 3 FPS. Yeah, but when you put, you know, everything together, it really adds up. Such as the next change in Sculpt. Avoid retrieving vertex attributes when flashing the positions. So this gives around 0.5 milliseconds, so half a millisecond per stroke update. So when you are, you know, when you move your stroke, I know it's not a lot. 0.5 millisecond. How much is even that? What is less than a millisecond? A microsecond? Nano? No. Microsecond. Probably like 1,000 microseconds is a 0.1 millisecond. Let me know in the comments, please. Anyway, it's in this test, sculpting a 1 million faces mesh gives this improvement, which again, if you add it all together, it's a lot. Such as this next change. So before we had 0.5 milliseconds update, not a lot, you would say. I want you to give me 0.5 milliseconds. Next, in this other change, also by hands, by using the changes that were done in the previous commit, now on the same 1 million face mesh, this saves 100 milliseconds per stroke updates. That is a lot. Now this is good numbers. This is a 10% of a second. So yeah, okay, cool. This is much, you feel it when it's 100 milliseconds. I mean, maybe you can think of it as lag when you are playing a video game, that even you can tell when, you know, when you're like 100, 250 milliseconds. When I play video games with my friends in South America, there is like 200 milliseconds lag that I have, and it's so annoying. I blame that for all my deaths in in League of Legends, but yeah. The next change, it has to do with nodes, with frame nodes. There's no numbers how much faster this is, but this change by Ilya allows for optimizations because one does not have to iterate over all the nodes anymore to find all the nodes within a frame. So if you have a large node tree and a bunch of frames and a bunch of nodes inside those frames, this should make things faster by caching those nodes, the child nodes. And last but not least, regarding the performance in the nodes, Hans also rewrote the implementation of select the next and previous type operator. Did you know that this node even exists? If you go to node and then you do select same activate same type previous. The name is terrible. We need to change this name. Activate. It should be just select. Select is almost activate. Same type next and same type previous. So if you have an image node and you want to go and jump to the next image node in your node tree, this would go to it. And apparently it was a bit slow. This was added by Ton Rosendahl. I asked for this feature around 12 years ago. I think it was during Sintel. I was working on Sintel 4K, or was it during Tears of Steel 4K? Anyway, still 12, 11 years ago when Ton was still coding. We were converting the horror film to 4K, so it meant that we had to go to every blur node and up the resolution from, because back then we didn't have relative blur, so you have to go and change the values from, I don't know, 100 pixels to 200 pixels or 400 for 4K. And yeah, so Ton went ahead and made this, and now a decade later, Hans made it much faster. Instead of taking 20 milliseconds, it takes 1 millisecond, less than 1 millisecond. It's impossible to count. But yeah, the change itself, I wonder if this was brought into attention because of another change done recently in the user interface side of things, also part of the node editor. So the change is as follow. Refactor node context menu. Have you ever used the context menu in the node editor? Have you noticed how useless it was in many situations? Actually, there is a task here with images, how it used to be. So the context menu, so right click on, well, anywhere in the node editor, wasn't really helpful. It had a bunch of options, but the options were not, didn't have any context. So you could have the duplicate, rename, delete when you didn't have any node selected. So yeah, not very handy. Or group or ungroup, even if there was no group involved. Again, not very handy. The toggle options were all in exposed here, was hard to read, collapse and hide. It was just not great. So based on, I've seen over the years, I've seen many people talk about this on right click select, on the forums, and even on some personal blogs of people complaining that some basic operations such as, like, I don't know, add to frame or remove from frame were not there. So now this has been tackled. So if you have for example, a node selected, well, first, if you don't have any nodes selected and right click, you're gonna have another menu where you can add things. You can paste things in case you have something in your clipboard. You can find nodes as well. So for example, if I want to find the, what is it, input, pressed, and then it will jump into that position. Yay. If you have a viewer, you can clear the viewer. If you have nodes selected, well, actually, if you don't have any nodes selected, you can use the operators to cut or to mute links. So if you forget what was it to mute the links because it's a mess, it's Control-Alt right mouse, well, you can just click it and then activate, or at least to remember the shortcut. I think it's pretty handy. And you can also cut links from here. Another menu shows up when you actually have nodes selected. So if you have a node selected, you can copy, paste, duplicate, delete, dissolve. So this is it's an operator that removes the node but keeps the connection between the other nodes around it. This had a different name before. It was delete and reconnect, but in mesh editing, this concept is called dissolve. So I name it that way. You can make a group as well. You can insert into a group. You can join in a new frame. There you go. Or you can also remove from frame from here. There is renaming, select, show, and hide. This follows the same naming conventions in other areas of Blender, and the select operators also show select group. For example, if you want to select all the same type, color, or with the same prefix or suffix. Did you know that you can actually select nodes that are starting with, for example, if you have nodes or one of those assets coming from like a Erindale toolkit, you can do, they're all named with a specific prefix. So you can actually go and search for that same prefix. What else? I think that's it. Oh, and if you have two nodes selected, you should also see some options for making a link, or make and replace, or detach links when possible, of course. So if there is nothing here, you should be able to make a link. And also, if you have for example, you want to connect the viewer, you can right click and link the viewer to that, when applicable, to that node from there. So in this case, yeah, I don't see anything because it's just a color, but you should be able. Cool. Tertion says, sorry, I'm late to the party. Is this for 3.4 or 3.5? Everything that I show here, it's 3.5 for sure. And some things are 3.4, but only the bug fixes. Everything that I mentioned as a bug fix is in 3.4. But not everything. I will try and see. The next change in a completely different area in Blender, it's a bug fix, but it's not in 3.4. It allows you to join tiny screen areas for tiny people. Okay. This change allows you to join a tiny screen area, which shouldn't even exist in Blender, but for some reason we can make tiny areas. I mean, why waste resources in this? Let's not go there. But hey, now you can join these areas. It's mainly a bug fix. However, I think that Blender, when the area is so small, you could just like minimize to a blank or black, I don't know, like a region with the icon, maybe an icon to expand and the icon of the editor, maybe, so it doesn't waste resources. But other than that, the next change, it's another by this gentleman, but it also inspired by a bug report, and no, mainly a bug report, and then some mentions in a forum. Back in the days, Eevee, when you enter Eevee, like any Eevee render, for example, let's go into inner hair. This is very slow, but it's on purpose. So if you go to a file with Eevee that is very slow to compile, that it has many shaders to compile, there used to be, a few versions ago, there used to be a progress bar at the bottom that would say compiling shaders, and it would be like a random number. It would be, I mean, it's a progress bar, so you had it from 0 to 100. That progress bar wasn't very precise. Apparently, I remember the meme of the little. Apparently, when compiling shaders, it's hard to know how many shaders need to be compiled. There is a total number of shaders that have been compiled, and there are some shaders that are cached as well. So the number of total shaders to compile can change, and that would make a progress bar useless, basically. Also, if you have cached most of the shaders, but you are recompiling one that is super slow, then you're going to be stuck at 99% forever. And that also is not very useful. So this was changed to not have a progress bar and to follow the same concept that that Cycles does. So if I go to render now, you're going to see on the top left that now Eevee says, well, actually, since for a while now, Eevee says the compiling shaders and a number. It used to say compiling shaders 22. Now in parentheses, it says how many remaining, because there was a number there. That 12 number was there, but it was never really specified what did it mean. Is that number going up, going down? Is that the total number of shaders? Is that how many seconds are left? No. So I asked Clement, the creator of Eevee, and he said those are the total number of shaders left to be compiled in the queue. So that is an actual number that you can trust. So yeah, the change to make things more clear, just as simple as adding a remaining to the label. But now this is more clear. I think it took me longer to describe it and to write this description than actually adding the lines here. Also, this has been discussed with the developers, and there was some discussion about should be uppercase, lowercase. You wouldn't imagine the amount of the time that goes into these small things sometimes. We do have guidelines, but sometimes some things don't apply on a guideline. We never had some text in a parentheses in this shader in the text info area in the viewport. Sorry for the noise. I'm having mate because tomorrow Argentina plays. Actually, the Netherlands is playing right now against Senegal. I'm missing it. Okay, cool. What is the next change? Oh, nice. This is a bug fix that I've never noticed, but it was a really bad bug that someone found out, and the awesome Leon fixed it. What is the change? Well, have you ever noticed? I haven't. But have you ever noticed that some nodes, the greater than combined color, these nodes were changed some time ago, this year, I think. Yeah, this year. So in 3.3, this should, I think, still be the case. The thing is, the node would dynamically change the values, and it will change the label and the label of the items. Hue saturation value in this case. The sidebar, it would still say red, green, and blue. So it wouldn't respect this change. And the same with value and threshold, it would be just, yeah, completely wrong. This has been fixed. So as expected, red, green, and blue becomes hue saturation value, and the same for this beautiful language, which I assume is with these weird little uppercase thingies, it's German. So Farbton, it's no longer rot, is Farbton. Gotta love German. What else? Although this should make a lot of German people happy, these things working as German and Swiss German, I guess, and Austrian German. And or are Austrians also, do they have also that bit of, you know, when you say, because for Swiss you could say, you know, Swiss precision, but are Austrians the same or similar or more chill? Next, another fixed also done in the node editor by Leon, makes it so positioning of the nodes added via search is now where you would expect it. This issue is goes as far back as 2.79, and this has been now fixed. So whenever you add a node from the search, it's going to appear at the place where you actually call that operator. So yay for not being confused. A small fix has been done by Hans in the activate same type in the operator that we just saw to find the next node of the same type, but also in the find node. And I wonder if this was brought into attention thanks to the context menu. That will make me happy. This fix makes it so now the node is actually in the view. Before it could happen that half the node was in the view. Not anymore. And okay, this is UI, but it's a UI outside of Blender. It only affects Windows users. So when you install Blender, you can install multiple versions of Blender, right? You can install 3.2, 3.3. If you install 3.3, a new version, like a new point release, because it's an LTS, it's going to override that LTS version. If it's a new version of Blender, if you install 3.4, it's going to make a new folder. So it's not going to mess with your current installation. However, up until this commit, actually today, so maybe this is not in the build yet. When installing Blender, Blender would create a shortcut in the desktop and in the menu called Blender. That's it. Thing is, it would give an error, like a warning, because it would override the existing Blender. So now the shortcut is going to have the Blender version next to it. So on the desktop on Windows, after you install Blender, you're going to see Blender 3.4, Blender 3.5, and so on and so forth. Okay. Cool. And that is all for the UI. Thank you. This is absolutely life-changing for production environments. What, the adding the note, the version to the shortcut. So I see a lot of Germanic blood people are being triggered. That's nice. Thanks for that little node placement fix. I appreciate it. Do you see this, Leon? You should thank Leon. Leon, are you for hire? Have you ever thought of moving into the Netherlands, to Amsterdam? Because what you do, it's awesome. And we need people that like to do that kind of stuff. Cool. All right. Thanks for dropping by. Hello, everyone, coming in. Oh, the version number thing should go into 3.4. So some things are going to 3.4. So it's bug fix. This is considered a bug fix. So this will be part of 3.4. So when you install 3.4, it's gonna show that. Is there any drawbacks to installing and running Blender from Steam? Absolutely not. Installing Blender from downloading the Blender installer from Blender.org, installing it from the Windows Store, and running it from Steam, it's the same. It's all the same. There's no difference to that. I mean, the only downside is that you need to have Steam running, which could be tempting into playing video games instead of using Blender. That's the only thing. But other than that, you're safe. But the cool thing about Steam is that it keeps track of the hours that you've been using Blender, and you can use that to show off. Okay, next changes. We have a few sections more. Wait. Cycles has a few improvements. One, it's a bug fix that I've run into in the past, and you probably have as well. The depth pass would have these weird gaps in between. So annoying. Also, it would be very noisy. Turns out the noise is really hard to get to remove. This is already the case in some other passes, such as depth of field and motion blur. So that is still to be fixed. However, the outline has been fixed. It's no longer the case. So yay for that. Some pixels with transparent surfaces no depth value will be written in the pass. Now ensure we always write at some depth value to the pass. So yeah. Next. The next change is not a bug fix, but it has to do with hardware in Blender. Hardware that is not even available yet. So Cycles now supports AMD RDNA 3 GPUs. So these graphics cards were announced earlier this month, and they're only going to be available, I think, December 13. So 1 week after Blender 3.4 comes out, Blender will already have support for hardware that is not released yet. The same case that it happened with Intel, that Blender will support hardware that is not even available yet. Isn't that amazing? Talk about industry leading software. That's awesome. And that is thanks to Blender being having so many releases over the year and being able to update so easily. Isn't that awesome? Cool. And also they upgraded the heap compiler, so the AMD's version of CUDA, to use GPU rendering, and this fixes a performance regression with RDNA 2 cards. So it also makes the previous generation, I mean current generation, because the newer one hasn't come out yet, faster, fixing a regression. So that is so cool. You know what else is cool? Other hardware. Well, Metal also is getting fixes. Metal ray tracing fixes for point clouds and ambient occlusion. Actually, if I look at the patch, there is a question here by Brecht saying, hey, can we mark the point cloud and ambient occlusion local only issues as resolved? And Michael from Apple says, yes, good spot. If we click on it, we're gonna see the task for implementing Metal support for Cycles is nearly complete. There is some fixes for hair transmission, OpenVDB, visibility, shadow catcher, but hardware-wise seems to be there for Apple Silicon, AMD, and Intel. Even Intel, that is such a good news. Okay. The next change is actually in the user interface. It's a very small change than to the path guiding panel in Cycles, also done by this gentleman over here. And the change is very small, but makes it easier to understand what the path guiding process is like. So here, path guiding, the training samples used to be at the bottom, and it was aligned in the same line with volume, not line, but the same column with surface and column, make it so it kind of looked like it was dependent on the volume, which wasn't the case. And so that has been changed, and now it's called, now training samples are all the way on the top because these affect both sampling methods. Okay, now it's a little bit of a potpourri section. In Grease Pencil, there is now the ability to, whoop, not here, it's not Pablo, it's Amelie. Actually, oh, have you watched Amelie's presentation about Grease Pencil and the conference? Blender conference Grease, you should check it out because Amelie demos the tools that they've been working on for animation productions and les faits spéciales. And all these tools like this selection color picker, they are on their GitHub. So they're add-ons, but they make it available free for everybody on GitLab, not on GitHub. It's awesome. So really cool to see how they are using like some remapping for colors stuff, stroke mapping, like kind of UV projection. I don't know. So cool. Using a character that many Argentinians and Spanish will recognize, but it has to be kept a secret. But anyway, it is super cool what they're doing. You should check out this presentation. It's called Grace Pencil Tools for Animation Productions in the Blender Conference. I'm gonna paste the link here so you go watch it. So nice. Cool. Next. So again, so that Amelie, what you just seen in the video, she made it. She fixed the dope sheet, so you are able now to sort Grease Pencil channels. Actually, she's responsible for adding support for Grease Pencil channels in the dope sheet in the first place. So it's good to see that this is it has been fixed and addressed. The other two changes are related to the Python API. One is a new option that allows you to override or actually to make all the overrides editable. So this is, there was a request by Paul. He used to be Pipeline TD at the Blender Studio. And this is something that you would use in a studio. It's actually in 3.4 even, I think. Yeah, this is in 3.4. It's an API change only. So it shouldn't break anything. It's an option that allows you to make library overrides editable. So not the system overrides. The last change, it's again a parameter that has been added to the API. This is also for 3.4 because it was a regression. The operator to save images from Python was assuming some values from the main operator when you save an image. However, the file path and quality options were not exposed, and now they are. So you can choose choose the quality and file path through the operators as passing on the parameters. And that is all for this week, nearly 6 o'clock. So I'm on time to answer some questions on all right, on Blender.Today. I almost say right click select. Cool. Did you know that Blender has a Mastodon account? It's in mastodon.social @Blender. Cool. Let me refresh this page just to see if there's any new questions. 16 questions. Let's see. So this one is the first one. It's by I'm fighting for a better 3D software Blender. What do you mean? A 3D software? So you want to blend many 3D softwares? Or? Okay. Let's see. Hey Pablo, do you and the people who decide on the realization of right-click select ideas for decide on the realization of right-click select ideas? No one decides on realization. Well, sorry, I'm gonna continue. For Blender, all votes count equally regardless of who the voter is, since the voting is public. And why is that so? Wait, do you and the people who decide on the realization ideas for Blender, all votes count equally regardless of who the voter is, since the voting is public, and why that's so? Okay, so these are multiple questions. Maybe you could, I can edit. And well, anyway, if you this supports Markdown. So if you do like star and then star, this will make it easier to read. Anyway, save. Sorry, I'm saving over your changes. And okay, so this makes it easier. So do you and the people who decide on the realization of click select ideas for Blender, all votes count equally regardless? Yeah, all votes count equally, which is a good thing and a bad thing in a way, because you don't know if the person downvoting is a troll or it's a, I don't know, leading technology system admin, I don't know, lead animator at Pixar. You know, it's like, you don't know. So it's the all votes count equally. I don't really often check who votes for stuff. Sometimes I do, especially if there is like a few downvotes only, just to see who's that person. And there's a few names, well, some nicknames that I recognize, but I don't know who they are. And I wish these people would use the real names so we can actually see who these people are instead of just some random nickname. I'm not saying for you, but you know, if the people downvoting is like, I don't know, lonely vertex subdivided .001, I'm not sure I'm gonna take it as seriously as someone that actually uses their name on it. But other than that, the ideas don't really, I mean, the number of votes make a difference, of course. When a developer it's looking into add something, for example, every time I look at a right-click select idea and I see that it has a lot of attention and a lot of votes, of course I'm gonna pay more attention to that. But it's not really deciding if the tool itself is, the proposal itself goes against Blender, either the philosophy or the, I don't know, licensing issues, or just changes completely how Blender works and doesn't make it Blender anymore. I will go more, I wouldn't go deep into that one idea, personally. Will the Blender extension platform go live this year or next, and when? Not this year for sure, because I'm going on holidays in a few days. I'm not gonna be around for a while. The people at it's not that I'm a showstopper for the project, but I'm the only one working on the design of Blender websites at the moment, and you need people to be around for launching such a big project, right? If things break or whatever. So no, that's for sure. Also, when we publish, I think we're gonna do like a small beta first that will, maybe we can get some of the add-ons from Le Fait Spécial to be in there, or some add-ons from the community that would benefit from being there first on a small beta, and then launch it publicly. Okay. Next, will the power of the Blender extensions platform when it goes live eclipse graphical? I hope, because graphical at the moment, it could at some point disappear, because if you have the Blender extension platform, it's just about the same. Graphical was great when it was launched. I was part of the team that launched graphical in 2005. Graphical is older than many people watching this live stream. Graphical is older than Blender Nation, is older than so much. But I think nowadays with the Buildbot and with the upcoming extensions platform, this is no longer needed. So maybe next year we're gonna sunset graphical. In the same way, the ideas for Blender platform could come, which would live on ideas.blender.org, and on which we vote. The vote will not be publicly visible, as well as the liking of content and comments on. But the liking of comments is public on studio.blender.org, right? I think, or not. Are we hiding the stuff? Not sure. Anyway, how do I even see it? Anyway, these likes are public. Most of the likes nowadays are are public. We thought of hiding the likes for some assets, but I think for something so, I mean, for the studio platform, it's okay. It's not a big issue. Okay, next. Oh, about ideas.blender.org. No, I think right-click select, it's still like right-click select is a website for the community. If ideas.blender.org happens, it's gonna be the same. Right-click select is in Blender community. This website is made by Francesco and I. If ideas.blender.org happens, it would be made by Francesco and I, so it doesn't make any sense. We made this website as an independent platform, and there is potential in being something like this. Blender artists could make their own right-click select if they wanted. They could make ideas.blenderartist.org, and it would be the same. So, yeah. It's I know it looks like a different platform, but the Blender community is so small in that sense that, well, the people making websites for Blender is so small that we're always the same people making this stuff. Sigad says, hi Pablo, great stream. Happy holidays to you and the team. Quick question, happy holidays to you. Do you have any news on loop nodes and coming to geometry nodes? Yes, there is in code.blender.org. Wait. Oh no, haha. We are actually, well, if you are in the, what is it, in blender.chat, and then you go to channel geometry nodes, you will see some, as you see then, you need to be logged in. But if you go here, you will see some mockups about geometry, about loops and stuff, and like mockups. Again, these are some discussions that the developers have had, but there will be a blog post coming about this. So stay tuned for that. This is just a mockup, some ideas that have been going around for by the team. Actually, we talked about this with Dalai last week here at the studio, and we made some mockups, some brainstorming. So it is coming. Stay tuned to the code.blender.org blog. Alexis says, hello Pablo, do you know about the case between specular, it reminds me of speculas, the Dutch thing, and CG Matter? I don't know, what is that? I know CG Matter. Well, no, there are so many channels with CG on their name that I don't remember. Which one was CG Matter? No, I don't know CG Matter. I know CG Boost. Yeah, CG Society, CG Cookie, of course, but I don't know them. And Specular, never heard of it. In short, CG Matter posted a tutorial based on the idea of the Pay Specular product on Gumroad. River generator. Specular put video down with strike. Boah. As I understood, just for the idea. I think you understand what this means for the YouTube channel. To have a strike, yeah, it's not cool. Even the node setup was the same. Not nice. If it's okay, that means, for example, I can make all the most popular combination of nodes with instances, curves, and so on, upload them to Gumroad for money, and ban everyone who will make tutorials on this topic. I feel like this is not right. This limits the freedom to create and the freedom to teach, learn things in Blender, just for someone's profit. I mean, geometry nodes allows you to do all kinds of crazy stuff, but some things you gotta use the same nodes, right? If it's just a matter of asking the creators, like, hey, did you copy it or not? Was it inspired at least on that? I mean, at the end of the day, if you make a cube and someone makes a cube and puts it on Gumroad, then whose fault is it? I mean, the generating a river is not really a novel concept, right? There has been many ideas like that on the hashtag geometry nodes on Twitter. So I would say everybody should be free to make whatever. And if you are inspired by some other project that you've seen online, you should mention it. But going ahead and putting a video down with a strike, nah, not nice. Either side, they should talk about it. They should discuss it publicly. But yeah, making the, I mean, you can't add a license on some geometry nodes. There's a fly going around. How I am close here. How did it go in? Anyway, the platform, the extensions platform, is going to support assets. So assets can be shared there, will be possible to share them there, and assets can be Creative Commons, so public domain. Next, looks like Hi Pablo, looks like actual progress is being made on geometry node simulation. Yes, I saw some stuff and contributed on the dev talk, though I could only find the post beacon thread. Any internal sneak peeks or UI tests? Actually, that's what I just shown, and this will be public in a blog post in the code blog. What are your thoughts on the mega node frame, the super frame? Is a specialized group type more of your liking, a bisect node? Do you have some tests with something I haven't seen yet? No, actually everything that we discussed, I think it's been public. This is some discussions that we had before with Dalai. And there were many decisions. There are many ways of tackling this. I think both have potential. The frame being extended is useful to see it at a glance, but if you make it a node group, it's easier to share. So at the end of the day, this is just a visualization of could be just a visualization of a node group. So imagine if you could expand a node group as part of a frame. So it will look expanded in context. That would maybe solve it. And you have the best of both worlds. If you want to collapse it, it just looks like a node. If you want to expand it, you can expand it both in local mode with like slash in the keyboard, like what you do with an object, but also in context. I think both are valid options. And we should, that way it would benefit also other like compositing nodes and shading nodes. Next question. So I'm going to answer the ones here in this. Actually, no, I should. Are people voting themselves? No. Hi Pablo, happy last stream of the year. Happy last stream of the year. Have you heard of the buffer loop trick? I saw I saw one tweet that had some crazy loops in there, like simulation. It looked like a simulation. But yeah, a loop trick is kind of a simulation. Like the first step of simulation will be to just being able to access the previous, like the result of the tree. Basically, you tell it how many times do you want it to loop, or go for a amount of time, and just that without any physics involved can do so much. So just crazy how good the existing work with simulations and how performant it is for a hack. Do you maybe know when we can expect an official cache system? I think the currently existing demos show how powerful it would be. I think the team is going for the very first implementation for 3.5, and then it should have some kind of basic cache system, or like an edit topology, like a freeze topology kind of concept. Next, Rafael says, "Hi Pablo, hope you had a nice weekend." I did. Once this is the last Blender Today of the year, I wish you happy holidays. Thank you. I still have one more live stream to do later today for the Spanish version of Blender Today. I have two questions. Is there any plans to make Skull Paint work with multi-res and in topo? Yes, I think the in topo would be first. but the idea is that it will support it. Not only for painting, but for keeping attributes, like all kinds of attributes. And next, there is a bug in cycles that darkens the denoise albedo and denoise normals. I reported it in September and the devs confirmed it and have speculated why the bug happens, but since then nothing else has been said. If there is no news in September, you can always bring it up again, unless the developers mention why specifically. This has been confirmed. You know, in these cases, what you can do is download the latest master, because September back then was still in 3.4 era. Now we are in 3.5 alpha. So what you can do is download the latest alpha builds of 3.5 and confirm that this still happens in alpha. That is it's a bit of a nudge to the, like a bump to the bug, but a helpful one, because you say like, hey, this is still happening with the latest version, and that's it. And developers are gonna notice, and they know that it's still happening, because maybe it has been fixed, you know, it's by mistake, by using, you know, other areas. So thank you for that. Okay, let's go. How many more questions are there? Gee, a lot. Okay, let me go to the last. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to answer all of them. I can try to go fast because the last show of the year. Steve says, hello, hey Pablo. I just wanted to follow up with my question from last week about selecting back-facing components and having to use X-ray. You thought I was asking about objects and using a list. I was actually talking about points, polygons, or edges. So I thought you said object mode and you were actually talking about edit mode. Oh yeah, actually one of the developers here mentioned that, and yes, it's an issue and developers are aware of that, and even people from the modeling module team are aware of that. So the script no longer supported has to do back-facing collection broken with 3.2. Really want to stress how good this selection method is and hope it finds its way into the native Blender. This should be, I mean, anybody should be. Why would people do this? Don't abuse the Blender logo, especially with trademark it. It's not model to Blender simple key config. I know the intentions are good, but come on. Anyway, can someone strip? It's a free add-on. Well, every add-on is free, but the code is free. Maybe someone can like take those operators without replacing the entire thing and port it to an existing add-on in Blender. Remember, everybody's welcome to improve the existing add-ons in Blender. The same way people submit patches for Blender itself, you can also do it for regular, you know, regular add-ons in Blender. For example, edit mesh tools, or edit mesh. This one has a perfect name. Grab is literally copy paste of that add-on, putting it here, make a patch, and just goes for review. You know, this can happen. Okay. I don't know why more people don't do it. Also with the node wrangler, or with like, if you see something cool in an add-on that it's only doing that one feature, but you think it can fit in the other add-ons like the node wrangler or other add-ons, go ahead, make a patch. What else? It's been answered. Hi Pablo, says Danny. Happy New Year in advance. I have a problem with geometry nodes. When I want to export meshes, I have to use realize instance node, but it will destroy the instance info. They become join meshes. Yes. Losing UVs. Would the make instances real node will introduce, like in particle modifier? I don't know, actually. I don't know. I will have to ask actually geometry nodes developers to answer this. But I would suggest to, yeah, maybe make a different object and apply the modifier, and that should make instances real, I think. I know it's a workaround, but could work. Julian says, hi Pablo, is it possible to make the waveform in the video editor way bigger? If I want the waveform to be big enough, the audio is way too loud. And if I reduce the volume to a pleasant level, the waveform becomes a useless thin line. I don't know what's the normalization values for this, but this should be, it's a fix, right? It should be fixed instead of, I mean, this is 0.8, 0.080, so it makes sense that it's the size, right? This is 1, nearly 1, so it looks like it makes sense on paper. But it should be fixed, right? It should be. The only video editing software I know is Sony Vegas, and there you can do this. So what do you do? Or maybe it's a new option in the waveform that allows you to like a factor to make it bigger, make the waveform bigger. Actually, that looks like an easy fix. Like instead of having display waveform, this text would be here, and it would be a checkbox with a factor slider that you can make it bigger if you want to. That could be a fix. Also, doesn't sound like a too hard of a feature. If someone looking at this is inspired. Next question. I think at some point I have to stop. CG Tom says, hi, I'm a tracking and match move artist and use the transform orientation view space to help match move characters and objects in other software. In Blender, this feature moves an object towards away from the screen in Z space, only if the object is directly in the center of the screen. Here's the steps to reproduce. Should be reported as a bug? Yes. When in doubt, report it as a bug, please. Congrats on 1 million YouTubers. Thank you. Sila says, hey Pablo, I have one question about the always on top render images or child windows in general. That's two completely different things. We had in 2.9, I think it's a bug, I think, but it's gone again. I can't find it in the preferences. What exactly? Always on top render images or child windows in general. I don't think we ever had it. I mean, on Windows you have it. You right click, always on top in pretty much every window manager, but I don't think Windows ever had that option. It would be cool to have, but I mean, Windows should have. Come on, it's in the name. They're called Windows, Microsoft Windows. What is the plan for the children node in Hair Geometry nodes? Is someone working on it? Children node in Hair Geometry nodes. I don't know. I was also wondering about that. You don't have the concept of children nodes in geometry nodes. Well, maybe you do with instancing, because you know a child particle is just basically it just follows the position and it has an offset of the parent. So you can actually do that already if you like a instance on points around the surface. So maybe with a group of nodes you can do it already. Thanks, Pablo. It was nice meeting you at Blender Conference 2022. So looking forward for 2023 already. Any progress, says FreeMind, towards making edit mode wireframes green? You said that this was declined because of contrast. Changing hue wouldn't affect contrast. Well, you would be surprised, but changing the hue visually has like an effect on contrast, unfortunately. I was the one that wanted to tackle this but I didn't have the time, or I forgot it for a while. So anybody's welcome. I think I would upvote the idea, and many people in the UI team also would, but we need someone to tackle it, or I can do it next year. Max Edge said, how are you doing? I'm good, thanks for asking. Is Hans trying to make the Blender the fastest 3D package out there? I think he is. I think he's, and he's well on his way. So we are so lucky to have Hans in the team. Actually, I remember before Geometry Nodes, he was involved in some UI stuff, and now is that plus Geometry Nodes, but we've like the things he's doing nowadays is insane. I'm pretty happy. It seems like the perfect match together with Jack to work on this. So nice. So when thinking what is ahead for Geometry Nodes with simulation, with curves and stuff, it's couldn't think of a better match for that undertaking. Will there be something like action, says Blend Creator? Hello, Blend Creator. Will there be something like set action velocity and set velocity node in Geometry Nodes? Well, for simulation, I would say. And that is all. I actually managed to answer everything at the moment of opening this. So what else? We have just a brief comment. Why Blender release nodes not updated yet? What do you mean? They are. If you go to the wiki.blender.org, release notes 3.4, you can see everything that is available for 3.4, even 3.5. Some sections might be empty. I don't know why we have the page if they're empty. Actually, I think we should just leave it red, so at least we know what is there or not. But anyway, but yeah, it should be. The final release notes, the pretty ones, are gonna be available with the release, with the actual release. But yeah. Okay. On Windows, you need to use Power Toys. Yeah, for the always on top. I think they have that feature. I on Windows I use Power Toys to be able to do this, the scaling of a window, and that looks like you can do this. It's amazing. Okay, I think it's time to wrap it up and say goodbye for a while. I think it's been a pretty... What a year! What a year! We had 3.2, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3 LTS. There will be 3.4 in December. 4 releases. 2.93 LTS is still active for another year. That this year we went to Annecy in France. We went to Vancouver in Canada. Now the team is going to South Korea for SIGGRAPH Asia. There's been conferences all over the place. People are using Blender more than ever. We get challenges from big YouTube channels that are learning Blender in like 24 hours, in 100 hours. The channel Nerd Forge share how they use Blender for 100 hours. I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, go and watch it. They show like the entire process, and they start with the donuts and they end up with, I'm not gonna spoil it, but they make something pretty epic. I mean, they are great artists too, but it shows, it really shows how, you know, like at the beginning they start with like, oh yeah, we learned to use Blender. They don't even mention any details about Blender itself. It's assumed, and that is nice to see. Like when people don't have to explain all the time what is Blender. That's cool. Another YouTuber was Sara Dici, also made a 24 hours or so with Blender or more, and it's super nice to see. So yeah, Blender is all over the place. I think 2022 has been a fantastic year with the Blender conference. Next year we plan to have another conference for sure. We plan to continue going to events as long as it's possible. Yeah, let's not jinx it. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. Next year, Blender will see simulation with nodes for sure. Blender will see a better asset experience, Blender apps, Blender extensions platform. I mean, if 2022 was as big as we've seen it, 2023 is gonna blow people's minds out. And then 2024, we're gonna see Blender 4.0, which who knows what is gonna be possible then. It's gonna be awesome. I can't imagine next year. The year of Blender, maybe? Yeah, no next week, Saskia, no next week. But next year. Next year. Other than that, thanks everyone for tuning in today, last week, every week. Sorry for all the questions that I didn't get to answer. Sorry for all the live streams that I didn't do this year. But I'm definitely gonna keep doing it next year. I think BlenderToday and weekly news about software in general, the community, it's a good way to stay connected, to know what works in Blender, what doesn't work. You know, Blender is made by the community, by the people. It is possible by the community, via the Blender Development Fund, the tutorials that you make, the features that you introduce, the bugs that you report, and the bugs that you fix also. So let's do it again next year. Same place for sure. Same time. Yeah, same time. But that will be January 16. That's so long. Yes, January 16. See you next year. See you same place, same time for another Blender Today live. Watch your ear holes, people. The year of Blender on desktop, like the year of Linux. Happy everything. Happy. Have a great week. Have a great end of the year. Have a great new year. Have a great holidays if you celebrate this time. Have a great winter if you are in this side of the planet, or a good summer if you're in the southern hemisphere. I'll see you again next week. Next year. Ciao. I can't leave. Sorry. Okay. Ciao.